Hi, I'm Carol Negro. I am the Sergeant at Arms, but actually right now I'm the Sergeant at Arm. And I welcome you to Toastmasters meeting. And we hope that you enjoy our speakers and our topics. Thank you for participating and being our listener.
You gotta say President.
Now I'd like to introduce our President, Louis Deadbaum.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Toastmasters Golden Speakers. We meet every Tuesday at 7:45 in the Club Room at Hy-Vee on Burlington and 9th in Fairfield, Iowa. Burlington and 12th in Fairfield, Iowa. The mission of our Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. So I see we have a couple guests tonight. Would you like to tell us your name and why you came tonight?
My name is Sandy Magra, and I came to learn how to speak in front of people.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll ask you at the end of the evening if you have any comments about what the meeting was like for you.
My name is Luis.
You're still a guest, right?
I'm still a guest,
Okay.
but not after today.
Yay. All right. Very good. Very good. Okay. And by the way, Toastmasters, you who are members, who mentioned Toastmasters this week, raise your hand. Okay. We know that people join our club because they met someone in the club who talked to them about it. So keep it up. We want more members. We are a non-discriminatory club. And now, I would like to turn the meeting over to Dan Craig, our Toastmaster for the evening.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. Tonight, the theme of our meeting is teachers. There's a quote on our agenda: "The art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery." Mark Van Doren. I'm going to move the meeting right along by introducing the role players and having them explain their roles to us. First, we'll hear from our timer, Samantha Young.
Hello. I get to be the timer for the evening. Table topics are 1 to 2 minute speeches. The green light will be turned on at 1 minute. The yellow light will be turned on at 1 minute 30 seconds. And the red light will be at 2 minutes and will remain on until the end of your speech. The prepared speech that we have this evening is 25-minute to 30-minute speech. So the green light will go on at 25 minutes, yellow light at 28, and then red at 30. Evaluations are 3 minutes. The green light will be turned on at 2 minutes, the yellow light at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the red light at 3 minutes. And it remains on until the end of the evaluation. And I will be giving a report at the end of our meeting.
Next, let's hear from our grammarian, Monty Congo.
Thank you, Dan. Tonight I played the role of your local grammar fascist, also known as the grammarian. It is my job as grammarian to listen to language used by members during the meeting and to make note of any exceptionally good or exceptionally poor uses of the English language. I also get to announce the word of the day. The word of the day, in keeping with our theme of teachers, is studious. Studious actually has 3 definitions that it can be used as. The first one is spending a lot of time studying or reading, and studious. Number 2 is something that is done deliberately or with purpose of mind. A third definition is showing great care or attention. I'll be listening for the word of the day, and I'll tally its use, and I'll give a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
And now our counter, Annalisa.
Hello. So I am the ah counter. I will keep track of filler words such as like, pauses, false starts, and I'll give a report at the end.
Tonight, our general evaluator is Jean Symington Craig. We'll hear from her later. Our greeter joke master, Jolynn Gates. And our valid leader counter is unmanifest. We're going to just have to pitch in and do that all together. To begin the meeting, I'd like to turn things over to our tabletop evaluator, Jyoti Rajakant. Master.
Fellow Toastmaster guests and viewers at home, this is Table Topics. Table Topics is impromptu speaking, where as a table topic master, I provide you a theme or a question or a topic where you have 2 minutes to speak and you have 30-second rest so that you have to finish within 2 minutes 30 seconds, where you develop your impromptu communication skill. So I have, based on today's theme, I have made some 6 questions. I need a volunteer. Who would like to come first? Okay, Carol, come out. So I have 6 questions based on our theme: teacher, teaching, learning, learners. So which do you want to go for? 1 to 6?
2.
2. It is said, you can't be taught, but you can always learn.
You can't which?
You can't be taught, but you can always learn.
Okay.
So how do you take this in quote or sentence?
I get it. Fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home, I have gone through a process of learning in the last 7 weeks, which has made me extremely studious. I've spent a lot of time studying, and I've had to learn how to take my time and use it in a different way. Life hands us many challenges. My challenge was, as a professional musician, to learn to deal with myself having a severe injury which said that I could not be a musician physically, but I had to be a musician in my mind. So I had to deliberately, with purpose of mind, learn how to use my head and my mind to actually focus my attention and pull myself away from my pain and my injury, to learn how to lift my spirit. And lifting your spirit when you're injured can be a real process. However, when you're studious and you show great care or attention, and you actually look to it's within yourself, you can become better. I mean, you can do it. But it was for me a really important thing, because I couldn't have made it without a certain degree of inner spirit and understanding that education and growth are what are most important in life.
Where's the next? Just always paid very little, even though they are the backbone of the society.
The way in which I see society form today sometimes does not make much sense to a lot of us. Through our lives, we look and we see teachers get underpaid when they're the backbone of our whole structure. They uprise the generations to come, and they instill them with great knowledge of how to be better people, because given that they spend so much time with them, it's almost their second home when they're in school. And the fact that they get paid so little is not okay in my eyes, and I'm sure a lot of people don't see it that way either. I feel that our society is perhaps a little backwards in many ways, and one of these is the teacher situation. And that may be because our preferences are allocated in other places that may not be necessarily beneficial to us as a whole. So maybe it is just that we are a little bit upside down when people as teachers or as the people who pick up the trash or people who we don't even realize how much is done because of them unless they didn't do it, then we would really know like how much work they really do and how much do they have to go through. So in order for us to become great people, we have to be studious and be with our teachers and pay attention and appreciate what they do, because ultimately they sacrifice their time and energy in order to create a better world. And if we're capable of seeing that, then we will be better each day and we will appreciate the teachers that we have, and it will all be wonderful for everyone.
Joey. 1, 3, 4, and 6.
1.
It is said, in learning you will teach, and in teaching you will learn. Is that true? In learning you will teach, and in teaching you will learn.
I've had the experience of being a teacher as well as having been a student most of my life. So I know firsthand the experience of learning as I teach. My favorite teaching experience was teaching international folk dance when I lived in Texas and for a brief time after I moved to Iowa. Before every dance session, I won't call it a class because none of us felt like students, we were all just having a lot of fun. Before each dance session, I would prepare the dances that I was planning to teach on that particular evening. And I would dance them so much at home that I became an expert in that particular dance. Even though I may have been dancing the dance for years, by the time I was ready to teach the dance, I knew it so well I could do it in my sleep. So I made a point of learning more about the dance when I was preparing to teach it than I had ever known when I was just dancing it. Even so much as learning about the history of the dance, where it originated, the occasions on which it's danced, and so on. I've also been a substitute teacher in public schools, which was a grotesquely underappreciated role and something I hope never to do again. I learned a lot about the school system as I was a student teacher. But I think it's undeniable that everyone who teaches anything, any discipline or any body of knowledge, learns more as they're teaching. Maybe even learns more than the students do. So that's it. Thank you.
Who is next? 3, 4, and Toastmasters, we learn by doing rather than do by learning.
Good evening, Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. The quote is, here at Toastmasters, we learn by doing rather than do by learning. This reminds me of a talk that I had a lot of fun giving to the local Rotary Club about what is just very special about what we do here in our club and what is done in Toastmasters clubs worldwide. 14,000 or more clubs worldwide doing the same curriculum, which is group learning. There's no one teacher in this club, which is one of the pieces of magic that allows the club to function the way it does. It's an opportunity for all of us to teach each other by being able to do what we call evaluation, which is sharing personal opinions in a constructive fashion. The talk that I gave to Rotary was titled, Burn Toast and Save Your Life. And there was a catchy title designed to get their attention and invite them to one of our special meetings. We routinely create an environment in this club which allows people who have a fear, perhaps, of getting up in front of a group of people who have the deer in headlight experience. We routinely create a situation of such safety and friendliness that newcomers can do like Luis and others of the newcomers have done and just say, okay, I'll give it a try, and get up and actually try it out and discover that it isn't so bad and have a great time and keep coming back. That experience is because we learn by doing. We don't learn by, how's the phrase go? We don't do by learning. School is all about doing through learning, and it has its place in the world, but this has its place in the world too, and it's an exceptional experience. Thank you, Mr. General.
Still have time? One more. So would like to go? Otherwise I have to pick. Yes.
All right.
Sandy. So 4 or 6? 6. Do you remember the best moment in your life as a teacher? If you were not a teacher, then as a student. Please ask.
So I have been studiously observing this group of beautiful people tonight. And I would not be up here because this has been a terror since I was so tall, except for that last question, which was, you learn by doing. So I thought, well, gee whiz, why don't I stand up here and do so I can really learn? The question, when I was in high school, all the way through school, there was one teacher that inspired me, one teacher that taught me, that I learned from. I was open and willing to learn from this teacher. He couldn't have taught me if I wasn't open and willing, or if there wasn't an area where he could get in. So he was a teacher who inspired his students. He brought joy. He loved what he did. And so in loving what he did, he gave that to us as students. And it was, like I said, he was the only teacher through 4 years of high school that inspired me, that I loved going to school just because of Mr. Bruce. And so I'd like to thank Mr. Bruce, and I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to get up here and learn by doing.
done with table topics. Now it's time to vote. Please vote for the best table topic speaker. Are all they qualified?
All the speakers qualified. The speakers were Carol, Louise, Jolyn, Art, and Sandy.
Welcome back. Now I would like to call Louise Daniel, our table topic evaluator, to evaluate the table topics.
Good evening, guests, viewers at home, members. My job is to quickly evaluate 5 people who did table topics. Carol, first of all, I want to say that one of the things that I'm looking for in everybody is greeting your audience. Even though it's a table topic, it's a speech. You want to greet your audience. Good evening, guests, viewers at home, and so on. So Carol did greet us. She used the word of the day. She answered the question. She talked about something that she had to learn to be a musician in her head. I love the metaphor there. And you, speaking from a very recent experience, you personalized it. 2 suggestions. One was to come out in front. Come on out. We all love you, Carol. We want to be closer to you, and you should be closer to us. The other thing is, it is a table topic, and we do sometimes need to think. I would prefer to see you looking out at the audience and thinking rather than looking down. So that's a suggestion I have for you. Luis, you took your 30 seconds. I love that. It's really important. You have 30 seconds before you speak. Why not use it? You did that. It's great. I love that. You came out in front. You had really good eye contact. And you answered the question, talking about why teachers aren't paid enough. You think the world is all backwards, which I agree with you. Suggestion is greet us. You went right into the table topic, greet us. You did come out in front, and you were standing here, and you gave eye contact to all sides, which is great. There was a little bit of that pacing. So I'd like to see you be a little bit, you started out really specific, but keep it that way. And Jolyn, you greeted us. You could take a little bit more time to think before launching in. You answered the question, which is great. I always like to see people answer the question if they can. And you used your personal experience. It was a perfect question for you, I felt, as a teacher. You just really ate it up. Just like to see you use more vocal variety. Soft and loud. Okay, get that in there. All right. You greeted us. You came out in front. You repeated the question. I love that. When you repeat the question, that's a wonderful table topic technique. You related it to your own experience. You related it to us as a club. That was perfect. You had eye contact with Sandy because she was saying she was here to learn how to speak better, and your talk was about fear. And you had a conclusion. Perfect, perfect. Almost everything's perfect. The only suggestion I have for you, which I'm having for you all the time right now, is to be bigger. I want to see a bigger art. Okay? I was giving this talk to Rotary. I want to see the biggest art possible. And last but not least, Sandy, thank you so much as a guest taking the courage to come up and do a table topics. You greeted us. You had good gestures. I was wonderful. You were using your hands. You answered the question. You personalized it. You talked about an experience you had growing up. All wonderful things. I look forward to seeing more table topics from you. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Louis. Now it's time for the prepared speeches portion of the meeting. And I'm going to call up Art Atkinson, who's going to read the objectives for John Miller at his speech.
Tonight, John is working from a manual that I'm not familiar with, called the Discussion Group Leader. He's doing a project called the Workshop Leader. John, as we've learned in previous introductions, has had a long career in the military and in education. With the military, doing something that I didn't realize the military paid any attention to, and that was cultural diversity and sensitivity training. And in his career with education has taught meditation, language, yoga, a variety of things, and is currently doing work in the education field. What many of you probably don't know about John is that he has some other interests outside this field, such as clay pigeon shooting and kayaking. Tonight he's giving the Workshop Discussion Leader project. This is quite a lengthy 25 to 30 minute project, and I will be learning along with you. Please help me welcome John Miller, the Workshop Leader.
Thank you, Art, for that introduction, and thank you, Sandy, for coming. Welcome. Thank you, Luis, for coming back. I trust you might be becoming a member sometime. Very good. Okay. My topic might have a question mark at the end. Culture clash. Because the author of this text here, Intercultural Communication, points out that by the year 2050, the demographics of the U.S. will change from what they are today. Some of you have heard of this. The white majority will no longer be a white majority. They will constitute 47% of the population, 29% Hispanic, 13% Black, and 9% Asian, roughly. The author characterizes that as fertile ground for culture clash. I would suggest instead that it's an opportunity for intercultural fertilization. That's what I would hope to do this evening. That's what I will do this evening. I hope you follow along with me. We're going to do it in small groups, but let me give a little introductory information to show you how trends are changing a bit throughout the U.S. 6 particular trends I'd like to point out to you. First of all, I also want to say that I am honoring my father as well as the Asian cultures that I will feature this evening primarily by wearing this tie, which is a Native American tie that he purchased about 60 years ago on a reservation in Minnesota. Where did the Native Americans come from? Of course, they came from Asia, across the Siberian Strait. So in fact, their culture, roots of it, are the same as many of the Asian cultures that we'll touch on this evening. First trend, there are already Spanish language media programs, especially in states like New Mexico and California. Not just states like that with a heavy Hispanic population, but even in Fairfield, we have Spanish language programming on the cable network. Number 2, Arizona and Texas. Walmart has tailored the product lines and the displays to the Hispanic culture to make it more attractive to them. Number 3, Dish TV. 170 international stations in 28 languages. Number 4, as pointed out by Art, the military does give a hoot about cultural diversity and does have some training programs in place since I was in the military in 1972 when the program was birthed. Number 5, the 2010 U.S. Census was accessible in 50 languages. That's amazing to me, 50 languages. And the last one, interracial marriage in the U.S. has tripled from 1970 to the present day. It was roughly 2%, now it's over 7% of marriages. So we're seeing some very significant trends, changes. To quote Mr. Samovar, intercultural communication skills are not just an asset, they are a requirement these days. I would argue that the recent killing that we saw of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, the fact that of 78 persons arrested 10 days after the murder, the killing, shooting I should say, 75 of those 78 were from nationwide, well outside of Ferguson, Missouri. It shows the national sentiment for that issue that was underlying the whole conflict. Many people are concerned about honoring cultures in this country. How to improve intercultural communication? Practice. So we'll practice this evening. I have chosen some scenarios. Because of the Institute for Asian American Studies that is coming perhaps next year, I'm not sure exactly when, to the Fairfield area, I've selected scenarios that could apply particularly to Asian cultures primarily, but they really could have application throughout the world, as you will soon see. I am going to break you into very small groups of 3. I would like you to identify a group coordinator who will read the scenario to your group. I will give everyone a card then to write down. Please, everybody, write down your solution to the scenario. Otherwise, it's easy to say, oh, I agree with Lewis there. Yeah, it's a good idea. So write down your own scenario, and then in your group of 3, process it a bit, either by consensus or by, help me out here, compromise, there we go, compromise, or by democratic vote. Is anybody unfamiliar with consensus? Everybody's good about that, okay. Consensus means like if you're in Louis Denbaum's group, he says, we're doing it my way, right?
Right.
Not right. Consensus is you talk about it and you agree in your threesome about the solution. It honors everyone's perspective. Everyone signs off on it and says, yes, I can go along with that. If you can't get to that point, then compromise, drop a lesser important part of your solution, or democratic vote, just 2 out of 3, to put together the favorite outcome. Is that clear with everyone? Yep. I'm going to give you about 8 minutes to process this in your small group. And tell you what I'll do is I'll first pass out the cards. Let's, Louis, Art, and Sandy, can you kind of group yourselves together? And I will give you the card for the Japanese, roughly reflecting the Japanese culture. And after everybody's settled down here in the other groups, then please wait, and then you can share your topic. And Monty, let's see here. Let's do Monty and Jolynn and Louise, if you can deal with the Chinese topic. And I have one here that reflects Indian culture. Jyoti, if you can meet with Rick and let's say Samantha. And actually, how many do we have left? 4. So we'll have to, I think, have a 4th group. And this one I thought it's political, so let's make it the good old US of A, since we get so wrapped up in politics so often. So move yourselves together, different spots of the room, and please, one member of the group, read the scenario. Everybody, write down your solutions to it. And
we're each going to read the...
If you have any questions about it, I will be over here to help you. Okay, all right. In saying, yes, we are done. What was your country? USA. Wow.
Who wants to read it?
Yes, read the
Recommend?
scenario. And
Okay, you have been conducting an evaluation of a year-old pilot agricultural extension project. During the course of your study, you have discovered a number of irregularities, including serious misuse of funds, and in general have found that the project has been almost a complete failure. In the report you just finished, you have recommended that no further funds be spent. This morning, your supervisor has come to you and pointed out that the district representative for this region, who is running for re-election, needs some good news to jumpstart his campaign. A favorable report on the project would be very useful, not just to the candidate, but to your boss, and ultimately to the organization you work for. He asks you to rewrite your report. What do you do? Well, the short version is you can take this job and and that was fairly unanimous. We had, but just in terms of the couple different angles on it, we had what we call the moral tone. We had a couple people there. We don't want to be morally in the position of whitewashing failure. It's just not a good thing, and it doesn't feel right. We also had honesty. Being honest is just a requirement for being human. If we're not honest, the world is a whole different place. So honesty is a human requirement. Then we had a little more pragmatic, and that was personal discomfort with what was being asked, and also possibly trying to make lemonade out of this lemon by suggesting a solution that involves overhauling the project. Now, this project needs to be overhauled. Good start, but you can only go up from here. And then also just illegality. It's fraudulent use of funds that you would not want to be involved in this because you could be prosecuted and or even be asked to do this in the future, and your whole self-esteem just keeps going down. So we were pretty uniform that no, we wouldn't do it. And if we had 10 starving children and a spouse to support, that would muddy the water a little bit, but we still felt like we couldn't let those 10 children look at us after we caved.
so you wouldn't do what here?
We would not rewrite the report.
Okay.
The report stands as
All right.
it is.
Thank you kindly,
Yes.
Jean, and your group.
All right.
Rick and Samantha and, was it Chilty? What happened in your group?
Okay. Our question and case was, you teach school in a rural part of your country. You eat your meal at a local tea shop run by a low-caste family with whom you have become very friendly. Today, the headmaster of your school has approached you and advised you to stop eating at this place. He says it hurts your social standing and indirectly hurts the reputation of his school for you to be seen so often in the company of untouchables. What do you do? So what we came with the conclusion that we'll try to convince the headmaster that there is no such thing or person like untouchable in this 21st century. And he is also from the same society, same place. Even if he has such discriminatory feelings, and he might have come from such a society, but he also belongs to the same place. So when we try to convince him, he would be if not for the first time, we'll try it again and again to convince him.
Okay.
And if not, there is all the solution, like we'll go to the court, we'll see the law.
Very good. Thank you kindly. And Monty and Jolene.
Luis. We had one from China. Part of your job as an English teacher is to review and sign off on a host country teacher aide's lesson plans before they are sent on to higher management. So this teacher aide would also be Chinese. Your department has just hired a new aide who is not particularly competent, but is a cousin of the head of this department. Tomorrow you will be reviewing the first of his plans, and you can expect, and this afternoon your supervisor has called you into her office. She says you can expect these plans to be of an unacceptable quality, but asks you to approve them anyway. She doesn't want any trouble from her boss, or to unnecessarily embarrass the young man. How should you respond? This relates to the strong concept in Asia of saving face or saving personal honor. And I liked how my group actually brought out both sides of the argument. One is you want to be respectable to the host country and not cause waves. And at the same time, there's also, you have to be true to your own moral principles and standings. And that came out in both Jolene and also Luis's solutions. And I offered sort of a hybrid of that, in that the main issue is saving face. So then try to find another way, offer another way to save face. Give them a way out. Give them an alternative. Give them some options of how they can fulfill the country's or the culture's sensitivity, but at the same time, you remain true to your values and principles as to who you are. And the offer is offer to approve the lesson plans only if you are allowed to review and modify them with the new aide. So in a sense, you offer to take the new aide under your wing and mentor them and train them and teach them in their new role. Otherwise, they learn nothing, and the problem will just come back over and over and over again. And I think that would be a good argument to the supervisor.
Okay, thank you, Monty, and your group. The last group here, Sandy.
Well, our question was holding back. You are a female tour guide working on an eco tour. You work under an older host country man who is much less this takes place in Japan, who is much less technically competent than you. At staff meetings, you routinely outshine this man, which has begun to cause him acute discomfort. Today he has asked you not to speak at these meetings, and especially not to contradict or disagree with him when he speaks, even and especially if what he says is incorrect. What should you do? Again, it's a case of losing face. This is a country where men rule, women are subservient. The tour guide is a woman. He's an older man, Japanese man. So there would be a conflict. We would want to give our best, but at the same time, we wouldn't want to cause any dishonor to this man. So on one hand, we're in a country that we love. We've chosen to move there. We want to give our best. And so we all agreed that we wouldn't want to cause any waves, but we would want to give our best. So the solutions were, one, to ask guidance from this man and say, well, this is my conflict. I really want to honor you. What can we do? The other was to actually say, well, I really want to share what I've got. But so how about if you ask me questions? You say, well, Sandy might have an answer to this, or Sandy might have an answer to this. She's a woman. Or the other thing was, this is my answer because I'm a woman, is that I would just totally honor this man because I am a woman, because he's older, he's Japanese, losing face is a terrible disgrace, and it would be such a blow to the ego of this man. I would do it, and then I would just give my all to my tour people. Share all my knowledge and love of Japan.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And we are at the end of our rope here. Thank you for your contributions. It was a rich experience for me. I hope it was for you. Good evening. Want to get rid of that monstrosity there? I would like the cards back also, please.
Now let's take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. And welcome back. Now it's time for the evaluation section of the meeting. And to run that portion of the meeting, I'm going to ask our general evaluator, Jean Sun and Craig, to come.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. We're going to jump right in. We have an evaluator for our speaker tonight, Mr. Miller, and that would be Art Atkinson. Please help me warmly welcome Art to evaluate.
Good evening again, Toastmasters. So this was one of the most complex projects that I've seen done. You had to manage time, arrange us into discussion groups, give us our assignment, check on 4 groups in the course of that group discussion, and record what all the consensus or conclusions, the solutions were here so that we could see them. One of the things that I liked was the setting the scene, illustrating the potential that the changing demographics in the U.S. have created for these kinds of clashes to exist. I would like to point out that only one of the examples, I believe, was North America. The USA group here seemed to be dealing with a potential culture clash inside of the USA resulting from some kind of multiple demographics. I wasn't clear that there was anything but a basic moral issue in there. I didn't hear that there were 2 cultures that were clashing somehow in the explanation. That got lost. But all the others actually were in other parts of the world. There's an Indian, Chinese, and Japanese example. One of the things that was very clear about the way in which he did the project was that he gave us a written explanation of the situation, a clearly written situation that we were to place ourselves into and come up with a solution. That addresses one of the criteria that the manual calls for. In general, John, the way I read the assignment and the way you chose to carry it out, they're very different. It's hard for me to relate what you actually did to the questions such as did you provide statements of transition and clarify information for us? I believe that you must have come around to various groups and done so. In our group, what you supplied didn't particularly clarify. We had already figured out the clarification. Did you promote group unity by encouraging each member to express his or her ideas? So you gave us the explanation that we could come to our chosen solution either by consensus, by vote, or by compromise, and that provided the opportunity for us to express our ideas clearly. You told us that that's what we should feel free to do. Did you follow any of the problem-solving patterns that are listed in the previous parts of this manual? My primary problem in adequately evaluating your project is that I didn't see this project until we were assembling for the meeting tonight. And I didn't have any time to get familiar with what's in this book, which this particular project seems to build heavily on the previous projects in the book. So based on my unfamiliarity, I'm not able to give you a very eloquent, even studious evaluation. Questions such as, did the leader bring the group to an agreement using these methods, consensus, majority rule, or compromise? You suggested that we should come to our own conclusions by these methods, but you didn't actively participate in helping us do that. In my mind, the picture that the project is calling for is that you facilitate a group discussion of a group yourself, rather than splitting us into the multiple groups the way you chose to do it.
It was an option either way. You could do it. Yeah.
What I would like to do is find out how many of you found those situations interesting and they challenge you to think outside of your normal box. That certainly was my experience. That was the most valuable aspect of this project, in my opinion, and that part was well done. These were very interesting, complex situations. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Art. It's was a large project to evaluate. Now let's go on to our reports. And we can turn out that red light now. That's good. Why don't we go ahead and hear from first-time timer, Samantha Young.
Thank you. So table topics, Carol spoke for 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Luis spoke for 1 minute and 49 seconds. Jolynn spoke for 1 minute and 35 seconds. Art for 2 minutes and 18 seconds. And Sandy for 1 minute and 22 seconds. Our speech reached 30 minutes and 42 seconds. And Louis Denbaum for our table topics evaluator reached 4 minutes and 1 second. And then our speech evaluator, Art, spoke for 5 minutes and 9 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let me just ask the timer, were you timing him at 2, 2.5, and 3?
No, I was timing him at 2, 3.5, and 4.
Okay.
As the matrix says, and as Art mentioned.
Okay, very interesting.
I gave Art an extra minute because it was a long presentation. It was the only evaluation.
Oh, okay.
It's on the schedule.
Okay. So the VP of Ed used his imperial wand to give extra time.
Discretion. And I blew it
And he
even
still
more.
went over.
And I blew that one out of the water.
All right.
Even with
Okay. Okay, so let's see. So we need to have, before we go into the reports, thank you very much, we do need to vote on evaluators because we do have 2 evaluators. We have Art and we have Louis. Did both?
Either one qualifies.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Art and do I remember a PPP about watching the timer? I don't know.
Go to the video.
Okay, so moving right along. Okay, thank you very much,
We can
timer.
vote for the least bad.
Next, I'd like to hear from our studiously recording grammarian back there, Mr. Monty Condon.
I'll count that as 1.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Let's see. The word of the day was used 5 times this evening, not counting what Jean just threw out. Carol, you came in first place with 2. And actually, the word, you actually adapted it very well to your table topics. You were using purpose of mind, clarity of mind, and intention. I also liked how you brought out how you had to learn to become a musician in your mind. This is a major transition for you. Thanks for sharing that. Jolene, I liked when in your table topic you said when teaching one can learn more. When teaching one can learn more than the student. That's true. Art, you of course brought out the learn by doing, and you inspired our guest Sandy tonight to come up and speak. Sandy, I liked your saying, by loving what he did, he inspired us as students. I only have one correction tonight, and that is for Luis when you were doing your table topics. And I only bring this up because I heard it more than twice, but the one that I caught was when you were speaking, you said uprise the generation. You flipped two words. So it should have been rise up the generations. That was your intention. The teachers rise up the generation. You also had another word flip. And I thought something I'll bring it to your attention, something to be aware of when you're speaking. That's my report.
Thank you. Finally, our first time counter. So that's such an interesting job. I'm Lisa. Let's go ahead and thank her.
All right, here goes. Lewis. One two ands and a repeat. Dan didn't have anything. Carol had one two repeats. Monty had two, or Samantha had one Monty had two one and three repeats. Jean had four one and one false start. Jolyn had four and one false start. Jyoti had three repeats. Art had three repeats, one false start. Sandy had two one so, one repeat, one false start. And John had one
Thank you. Now watch what your experience is the next time you're listening to some interview. You'll be hearing them. Great. Now we have a joke from our joke master, Jolyn Yates.
Well, Toastmasters, I found this joke after studiously studying the internet because I don't collect jokes. I had to go online and find a joke website, and this one made me laugh. So I hope it will make you laugh as well. Now, the story begins with a tragedy. A young couple on the eve of their wedding are involved in a fatal car accident, and they find themselves standing at the pearly gates, waiting for St. Peter. And they look at each other, and the young man says, "You know, it's such a tragedy that we didn't get married. I mean, I was looking forward to being married to you for the rest of our lives." And she said, "Yes, I know, but, well, maybe we can get married here." And he says, "Oh, that's a great idea. When St. Peter gets here, we'll ask him." So St. Peter shows up, and he says, "Welcome to heaven, come on in." And they say, "Oh, St. Peter, before we go in, I want to know if it would be allowable for us to get married after we get inside." Peter goes, "Well, I don't know. No one's ever asked for that before. Wait here, I'll go find out." So they're waiting, and they wait, and they're waiting. They wait a month. And while they're waiting, they're talking about how it's going to be wonderful to be married. And she says, "Married for all eternity. You know, what if we're tired of each other after a few thousand years? Maybe it's not such a great idea. Maybe we should find out if we can get a divorce if we decide that eternity is too much." So he says, "Yeah, you've got a good point. We'll ask St. Peter that when he comes back." And they wait. Another month goes by. Finally, St. Peter comes back, and he says, "Great news, kids. I've got permission for you to get married after you get inside." And they go, "Oh, that's great, but can you tell us if it doesn't work out for us to be married eternally, can we get a divorce?" And St. Peter slams down his clipboard, and he says, "Are you here to make trouble? It took me 2 months to find a priest. How long do you think it's going to take me to find a lawyer?"
How many of you, when you're joke master, go to the websites? I think it's very common. There's some very funny stuff out there. All right. the general evaluator. So Samantha, this is a 3, a 3.5, and a 4. My job is to primarily evaluate the evaluators, so they get feedback. So I'm going to start with Lewis. I'm just going to say there's so many things I like about the way Lewis evaluates. I like that he, right up front, he says, these are my 2, 3 top criteria. He said greeting the audience. That was very big. It's not necessarily teaching, but he's just saying these are things that I'm going to look for. A lot of times I'll say opening, body, and conclusion that wraps. He talked to 5 different people. He gave positive, specific suggestions, comments on things that he liked. Specific, so you knew he was talking about you. I like table topics evaluation given to each individual. I don't like it as much when it's all lumped together and everybody did this and everybody did that. I don't feel like it's specific. I think it creates mushy thinking. Lewis, but he gave suggestions to everyone. And so with Carol, come out front, and when you're thinking, try to be looking maybe not quite as inward bound. Lewis, he gave suggestions, greeting the audience, avoiding pacing. So everybody got, and I jotted them all down here, everyone got a suggestion. Bigger, just really good. So suggestions for Lewis, because that's what we wanted. So suggestions for Lewis. We generally say, particularly people that are early on, if you're mentioning a skill like vocal variety, which he suggested for, who did he give that to, Jolynn? It's going to be learned later. In fact, there's a whole project on vocal variety to just maybe mention, that you will be learning this later. So you're not necessarily supposed to know it now. It's something that, this is a little bit of a seed to plant, and you will be learning it later, so it feels nice. That's just a small suggestion. And then also a suggestion for Sandy, because Sandy's guest. We're not going to, pile on Sandy unless she wants us to. But he just said all these positive things, and then he gave, and we look forward to more. Now, I think he could have suggested become a member, and we look forward to it. So that is, that's a suggestion there. Louise, yes. So of course we want Louise to become a member too. I think John said something about that too. But fun. You would have felt flattered, right, to join this Mary group. To be invited to join this Mary group? All right, good. I think, did I even get anywhere? So then I have to get to Art. Arts was a tricky one because it's a big project. So he acknowledged the complexity of the project and attributing a lot of initiative to John for taking on this project, I think. And John does take on big projects. Art was honest about not being familiar with the project and getting it somewhat last minute. And you can't do these advanced projects really without having some advance review if you haven't done them already. You really owe that to your speaker. I'm going to suggest that if we have advanced manuals going out, and it gets back to and we just had a holiday weekend. I can't remember when the Matrix came out. Was it Monday, Sunday? Monday. Okay. So Art was a little tight on Art being able to, I'm going to evaluate this 30-minute speech, and I don't know anything about it, and I got to get with John, and so that would be a reason to have, all things being equal, the Matrix out just a tad sooner, so people can get with the person that they're going to evaluate and make sure they understand what the criteria are. It is speaker's responsibility to coordinate with the evaluator as much as it is the evaluator's important. So I think if you're a speaker and you've got, you want to pay attention to your evaluator and make sure that they're prepared to help you. So you're the one that has the manual, so you have to coordinate that a little bit. That would be my thinking. All right. So I think that's about it for me. I did one of my hums, didn't I?
Vibratory, something.
And the vibratory pause. I do want to emphasize just how, I just want to say, Remember, when you're evaluating evaluators, you're not evaluating speeches anymore. So if you bring out content from the actual primary speech, you're only doing it to illustrate something that the evaluator did or did not do. Okay, that's how your brain has to, the gymnastics for your brain around that. All right, good. All right, thank you. And with that, I will turn it back over to our Toastmaster.
It's time for the meeting awards, and I brought some hardware. So let's have a little drum roll. Our best table topic speaker was Sandy. The best, and if you want to take that to work and bring it back next week, you can do that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Short drum roll, our best speaker was John Miller.
Thank you so much. The competition was awesome.
It was fierce.
So I appreciate this.
And the last category is evaluator. It was kind of a difficult situation, both disqualified. But I come up with a wonderful solution. I found a second place trophy. I'd like to call Art and Lewis up to share this. It's a pro experience. And now I'm going to turn the meeting back over to our president, Louis Dimbow.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. John, I want to say you did have stiff competition. You were competing against yourself.
It is tough.
And I have to say the improvement in your time management was unbelievable. You nailed it. You really nailed it. So I was very happy to see that tonight. So we have some club business. First of all, I sent around the member survey. Okay? I have some extras here. You can print it out and do it at home. You can take one of these and save yourself the printing job and hand it back. This really is about you. Our executive council wants to structure the rest of the year that we're in office till June 30th, 2015 to make this club the best experience for you. We want to break new ground. We want to do things that haven't been done before by Golden Speakers. So advanced mentoring, a workshop on a Saturday morning on table topics. Whatever it is that you desire, we're going to make happen, but we need to know what that is. So please fill those out. Next, we have someone to honor. Toastmasters has someone to honor tonight. Jean Simonton Craig, come on up. Jean is receiving her Advanced Leader Silver. From Toastmasters. Most of us, me included, we're working on our Competent Leader. Okay? We haven't even thought about our Bronze Leader, and she's already on to Silver. Okay, so this is her certificate, Advanced Leader Silver. Recognition is given to Jean Simonton Craig for exceptional achievements in the Toastmasters International Leadership Program, August 8th, 2014. There you go, Jean, there's that. And Jean is also getting Leadership Excellence. She has participated in the High Performance Leadership Program, learning and practicing the critical skills needed to be a successful leader, August 7th, 2014. She did this by putting on the annual club guest speaker meeting in January. It was well attended. It was orchestrated really, really well. She put together a really tight team and she managed it well. So this is also for you. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
Great job. Great job.
this Advanced Leader Silver is particularly satisfying because it's a hard one to get. You have to be a district officer for a year, so that's an area governor at the minimum. You have to have done a high performance leadership, and you have to have either sponsored or mentored or coached a club, and there's criteria for that, and it takes a lot of time. And thank goodness I had the Cambridge Club. Rick is the president of that, to be involved with, to mentor. So I was able to get that credit because we don't have a lot of other clubs around here that are ailing or just getting started. So it just feels like, and this is the top of the leadership. So for those of you that are staying after for our new member orientation, and by the way, anyone who feels like they want to get brushed up a little bit on this is welcome to stay for 15, 20 minutes. We're going to do that. But this is the last leadership one, and I just am feeling really like, oh gosh, it happened. It finally happened. So thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for everything you've done. Her leadership experience has really benefited this entire club over the last couple of years, doing all these projects. So thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
Okay. So next important thing is September 23rd, 3 weeks from tonight, we are having our humorous speech competition and our evaluator competition as one evening. So we need a few major role players for this. First of all, we need what's called a contest chairperson. That person is going to put the whole thing together. Don't worry, we have people who have been through this before. We will mentor you, but you have to be in charge of the whole contest. That means you're in charge of the ballot counters, the timers, the judges, the chief judge, and so on. So we need a volunteer for that really, really soon.
Notice you should point out that this is something that you gain credit for
Yes.
in your leadership manual. It's
No,
important.
you should point that out. Go ahead, point
No,
it out.
VP of Ed. But in earning your competent communicator, most of the things are just meeting roles that you go through, but some of them are special projects. And this sort of thing is not as easy to get. It's the ideal opportunity. It's been done so many times before that there's a whole script that will guide you, and of course, many people have done it. So it's not difficult, but it's a good opportunity to grab hold of.
So if you're, thank you, Dan, thank you for pointing that out. That's wonderful information. If you're partway, maybe halfway through your competent leader, this is a good time to jump in for that. You're just starting, and your new members, this is not for you yet. But if you're partway through your competent leader, this is a good time to get that credit. As Dan said, it's hard to get. So think about it. I'll give you 2 minutes to decide. All right, anybody interested in actually giving a humorous speech and being a contestant in the contest? Raise your hand. Rick, John, Carol, Art. Okay. So
Can it be red, or does it have to be?
yeah, you're not going to win if you read it.
Okay.
First of all, the winner of this club contest goes on to the area contest, and you compete against the winners of the other clubs. So we want people to we want to win.
Actually, I'm giving a talk on the 30th, also a short one, so I probably shouldn't.
Okay. Okay, so let me get those down again. It was Art, you raise your hand.
I did.
Art, Rick,
Don't know what the heck, Carol.
and Karen. Okay, speakers, okay. And then if you want to be an evaluator, there's a contest. You've seen different evaluators over the past months, and there's a style to it, there's a grace to it, there's a competence to it. As Jean was pointing out, we don't get up as evaluators just to mimic what the speaker said. No, we want to look at what the evaluator did and tell the evaluator what a good job and what a bad job they did and what the suggestions are. So that's an art. Okay? And this contest is to see how good you are as an evaluator. There'll be a winner, and the best evaluator will go on to the contest. So we need We need two things there. We need evaluators to compete, and we need someone to give what's called the target speech. That person gives the speech, and then those who are competing will evaluate that speech. And that's how we see if they are good, who's the best evaluator. So there's a fixed speech that's given, and then 3 different evaluations. So anybody, contact me, put it on our email if you're interested in being the target speaker, and if you want to be an evaluator.
And if you give a speech as the target speaker, that will be part of, you can use your CC manual. So if you're giving your competent manual speech, you get manual credit for whatever speech you are on in your manual. So it's not like it's just a special event. You'll get credit for it.
And also, it's not something, some people go, oh, I'm not ready to give a target, target speech. It doesn't matter what level you are at, because you're going to get evaluated. So it's actually evaluators, if you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, whatever, the evaluators are going to.
You actually get evaluated 3 times.
Yeah, so you get a lot of you get a lot of positive, you get a lot of feedback on stuff, and so it can be very educational. And I did it for my second speech. I was the target speaker, and I was like, what am I doing? But
so let me ask you about that, Jean, because as you pointed out, for me talking to Jo Lynn tonight as her table topics evaluate and mentioning vocal variety, and she hasn't learned that yet. So with the evaluators are going to evaluate it as if they've been.
It's a general evaluation. Yeah. It's not an evaluation to particular speech objectives.
Yes.
So you are giving a general evaluation on content and on the delivery.
Right. So if someone has not been through vocal variety, it would be fair game for the evaluator to say there was no vocal variety.
Because the evaluators don't know where you are.
Right. Good point.
They don't know where you are. They're just getting the speech, and they don't. It's not. If you're getting credit for a project, it's going to be between you and your evaluator, but it's not announced that you're doing project number 4 or anything.
And if I didn't bring out the point that if there was no vocal variety, and I, as the evaluator competing that night, didn't point that out, the judges would say, "Hey, Lewis, you didn't do a good evaluation because there was no vocal variety, and you didn't say anything."
Right, because the judges are interested in the evaluators.
Yeah. Does everyone get what's going to happen in this contest? Okay. So please think about whether or not you'd like to be the contest chair. Send an email. How about this? If you want to be the contest chair, send an email to our group by noon tomorrow. If not, the board is going to rope somebody in. So by the end of tomorrow, we want to know who the contest chair is. Okay, fair enough? Questions? Jean?
I want to say too, this is not a totally scary big deal. Okay, so we have fun at our club contests, we do. It's not something to be terrified of or anything. So Lewis has that big booming voice, and you start feeling like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's just fun. Step up, you just have a good time, and if you're the contest chair, we help you through it. And like Lewis says, it's a speech, and some of us can do this in our sleep, so it will, it won't be a painful thing.
I was just seeing Diane last night snoring contest chair stuff. It's terrible. It kept me up all night. Okay, so we're going to end our meeting. Sandy, would you like to say what the experience of being here was?
I thought it was really fun. I thought it was very interesting. I think that everybody that spoke was, almost speak from your hearts. It's like you're a big family. And I don't feel judgment. I feel support. When you give your critiques, that there's support there. There's no judgment, There's no competition. It's just coming together, enjoying each other's company, learning something new, and I'm enjoying it.
Good for you. Thank you. And what you really brought out is what I read as our mission, is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment. And we have the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills and foster self-confidence. personal growth. So you picked up on our mission. Luis, do you want to say something? You don't have to.
She articulated really well.
All right,
and
good.
I really enjoyed what she said. I feel the exact same way.
Excellent, excellent. Anybody else? Rick?
Yes, the comment that Jean made, especially if you're giving a talk from an advanced manual, to give your evaluator information about it. And one way you can do it is if you Google that manual, there's many different sites that have either a copy of the whole manual or a synopsis of each speech, which is enough to send to your evaluator to help them evaluate. It has all the points of evaluation. It doesn't have a lot of the description in it, but it has enough to do the evaluation. So I would recommend anybody who's doing a speech from an advanced manual help your evaluator out by finding that and emailing it to them.
Great point.
Where is that?
Where is that? Just Google it. Google Toastmasters and the speech name, or Toastmasters. Just Google Toastmasters and the manual name, and you'll find a lot of different sites where the manual is, or a synopsis.
Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.